A listener warning. Please be advised that this episode contains content that may be disturbing to some listeners, including descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Life upon the wicked stage ain't ever what a girl supposes.
I'm Jen.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Olivia.
And we are, in fact, three different people.
This podcast focuses on true crime under the spotlight of arts and entertainment. So grab your beverage of choice and settle in.
Places, ladies.
Here's our episode.
Murder, Mayhem, and Mame.
Our theme song better sound just like that.
I just made that up, so there you go.
Listeners, but by the time we release this, we will have some sort of music attached to this. Whether or not it is the jingle Olivia just did remains to be seen. Maybe you'll know by the time you hear this, I guess.
You'll know as soon as we know.
Could we do better or not? I don't know. We'll find out.
Vote on social media.
For anyone who is like watching a video version of this, we're just really trying to throw everyone off today because I sort of have a swoopy side bang happening. Jen has full bang, but Olivia is pulling no bang.
I'm in a no bang kind of mood, everybody. Buckle up.
After Pound Town last week, Olivia's like, I forgot
about. And I ended up not ordering Pound Town. I got the Forgasm.
Okay.
What is involved in the Forgasm? I need to know. Okay. Listeners need to know.
Yeah, let me pull up the photo so I can remember all the things. So one of them was, it's 4 slices of delicious cakes, all of them with inappropriate names. Okay, so we had the
Pound Town wasn't there?
The Pound Town was not part of it.
Jesus.
There was a red velvet between the sheets. There was, what was the chocolate? Thunder from Down Under, maybe? And then I forget what the carrot cake. It is now. It's called Thunder from Down Under. I don't remember what the carrot cake was called, but it had pineapple in it. It was really, really different. And then there was the All-American Pie. And look at this. I'm going to put this on the screen. Look how cute this is. It came with a little candle because they go, "What are you two celebrating tonight?" And I was like, "Love," because I couldn't think of anything. And they're like, "Oh, it's a date night." And I said, "Yeah." So they brought us a little candle and it says, "It's date night."
Aww,
that's so cute.
"We hope it's better than sex." That's what it said. Isn't that cute? And then this is the best. One of the best parts was the drink. So they had they rim the glass.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Told you.
And here's me trying to look sexy. That's what happens. But it's a red, sparkling red wine with a white chocolate rim.
Oh, listeners, this is a very hot photo of Olivia.
We'll put it on socials.
We'll put it on our stories this week. Yeah.
This is called the Rosy Cheeks. So. I remember the name of that one. Yeah. So there you go.
Better than sex. Sponsor
better
us.
Than sex. Yeah, exactly. Locations
Sponsor
across
us.
Florida. Yeah.
We would love to do an episode maybe like from your delightful venue.
Yes.
We could be eating it while I think it's good to eat while you're recording a podcast.
We can make it happen.
I think it's great for
we need
audio
all
quality.
the drinks, so it's fine.
That's true.
Jen, how many beverages do you have today? You're the one delivering today's episode.
I am, and I am very prepared. I have my large fake Stanley Cup of water. I have my Union Jack tea. I switched it up. I have some tea. And in honor of the last stage play I did, I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot. Wine glass. Sideways shout out.
I was like, I think you are drinking Merlot though. Okay, got it.
I'm not drinking. No, I am not drinking Merlot. I'm drinking Pinot. Thank you very much.
A Pinot Noir.
Pinot.
I'm continuing with my green juice, but I put it in an appropriate cup today.
I don't know why you're not drinking with us. I feel like such a lush.
But see, I got my Skull and Rose tumbler, so
I'll allow it.
I've got my Cabernet. Listeners, it is 4:17 p.m. as we're recording this. It is the weekend, so
there might be a tropical storm coming.
Which,
also,
if you are in Florida or know anything about Floridians, when that happens, that means time doesn't matter and the wine starts now.
That's right.
Yeah, if there's a hurricane coming through, it's like the storm is making landfall at 10 a.m. It's like, well,
well,
okay,
it's 10 a.m.
I'm ready.
somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like some white wine.
Yeah.
Jen, tell us what you're going to be educating us on today. What are we doing? Who are we unpacking?
Guys, I'm so excited. Speaking of segues, we're going to talk about Nell Gwynn, who is one of the very first actresses on stage in England, but honestly anywhere, and her scandalous affair with the King of England at the time.
Which
I
king?
know. King Charles II. King Charles
Not to be confused.
Name's
Not to be
the one that's
confused
right
with
now.
this King Charles.
Correct.
Although he had his fair share of affairs too.
Well, we'll get to it.
Royal mistresses, Charles, like it's feeling very on brand so far.
It goes together. It goes together. I have this bracelet that I bought at the Castle Windsor, so I'm wearing that today. I'm in it. And I do want to preface this by saying there is a lot of terminology that is not used anymore today.
Okay.
But it was used back then, so I'm going to use it because it was used in the books, such as prostitute, whore, things like that.
Oh, I see.
We are quoting sources.
Sources, yes.
Not to be disrespectful of sex workers of today in 2024. Yeah,
There you go.
Absolutely. Or
Noted.
in the 1600s. So Nell Gwynn is considered the most renowned and popular of the mistresses of King Charles II, whose 17-year relationship with the king is considered one of England's greatest love stories. Nell Gwynn
Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
Get out of here.
Well, Romeo and Juliet, no, either, if you really read it. But
Well, right. But I mean...
yeah, but it is. She's kind of considered a folk hero of English history, and she embodied the Restoration period so much that a lot of people have deemed her the real queen of Restoration England, because she was like what the whole Restoration was like.
Ooh.
If that makes sense.
Before we had the people's princess, we have the real queen of the Restoration.
Well, in the book that I read, it says she was the original people's princess. And
Interesting.
well done, Ashley. And the only mistress ever to increase a monarch's popularity. So because
Incredible.
of her, King Charles II was actually really popular.
This woman is an icon already, and we've just started.
I know. So she's a very interesting lady because her son, spoiler alert, was made a duke, but her mother died in a ditch. I mean, she is like this rags to riches story.
Wow.
And she was one of the first actresses on the stage in England. And just so everybody knows, I'll go ahead and cite, I had two books that I used for this. One was called Charles II's Favorite Mistress, Pretty Witty Nell Gwynn by Sarah Beth Watkins. And the second is Nell Gwynn, Mistress to a King by Charles Beauclerk, who, again, spoiler alert, is actually a descendant of Nell and the King.
Ooh.
So that's really, really cool. That one was a lot of fun to listen to. So I love it. We got a lot of history here. I'm going to try to go through it, but interrupt me and make as many quips as you like, as you will.
Color commentary while drinking wine.
Mm-hmm. So to first understand Nell, you have to kind of understand Restoration theater and her rags to riches rise. And we have to understand what was going on in England during the time. So here's your quick history lesson. Nell was born on February 2nd, 1650, by most accounts. There are a few that say it was 1642, but some people are like, she just told people she was born in 1650, not 1642, so she could be younger.
Yeah.
But there's actually a star chart in a museum in Oxford that says February 2nd, 1650, 6 a.m. So
That's very specific.
So that's what we're going with.
Okay.
And that means she was born almost a year to the day after King Charles I was executed. So she grew up in the midst of Puritan rule. It was a very dark time in English history. Theaters were closed, public entertainment and holidays were banned. Dancing, singing, playing musical instruments was forbidden. Even wrestling, leaping running, and unnecessary walking, meaning for pleasure, not just to get somewhere. Leaping. No leaping, no frolicking through fields,
So there
no
were not
joy of any kind.
No 10 Lords of Leaping. Did they skip over that?
Well, that was music, so that was also forbidden.
Also banned, Olivia. Get out of here with your songs and
how dare
your
you?
joy. A brisk walk. Whenever I take a brisk walk, I always feel like this is the tools of Satan, for sure.
Yeah,
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would prefer to be carried everywhere.
I mean, same. But that probably was also banned. Just stayed in your house and prayed,
Wow.
Sat still and prayed, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Adultery was a capital offense at the time. So they could kill you for it.
Oh, my.
But at the same time, prostitution was even more prevalent during this time than during Charles I's reign.
Well, sure, you
such as
smush people down,
demonization.
and they're going to be like, I'm going to go have sex with a stranger.
Yeah.
But I won't leap. I won't leap on my way there.
And I won't run, and I'm only walking to get somewhere, so it's fine.
Make sure there's not someone playing a lute somewhere while you're banging. I mean, that would just, it's a 1-2 punch.
So during this time, 1 in 10 women in London were prostitutes.
So adultery
1
was
in
a cap-
10?
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, pause. 1 in 10.
Yeah. 1 in 10 women were prostitutes because they're, it's 1650, 40. So there aren't factories. There's not a lot for women to do. If you're single,
Jobs,
jobs, and there
income,
are wars
yeah.
happening. There's a civil war happening at the time. So if your husband has gone off to war and been killed,
Wow.
You have no money. You're just
you have no
money.
money.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
And your father's probably dead already because the 1600s, and everyone has syphilis apparently.
Syphilis.
So.
Yeah.
Because they all have their
Everybody's raising
pinkies
their
up.
pinkies. Yeah.
So
Olivia, circle back to what you were just saying before I derailed us with the 10% because that was so shocking to me.
That's huge.
Yeah.
My question was, if adultery was a capital offense, but the king's mistress, it was known she was the mistress, and
Okay,
it was...
so this is before that. So this is during the time before Charles II.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So Charles I, his father was killed. Dark time in England, and I'm about to get to it. Charles II was in exile. So he had to run away. The whole royal family had to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what was going on. So just a quick, because we are a arts podcast, theater houses were torn down. Actors, if found, were to be whipped, or worse, have their tongues bored through with a red-hot iron. Then they can't speak anymore.
What?
It's a great time to be alive and an artist in England.
Wow.
Yeah, by decree of Long Parliament. It said this is what you're supposed to do to people. Yeah.
The country of Shakespeare is never mind, actors are evil and need to have their tongues bored through so they can't do any more of that acting.
Yeah.
Yikes.
We're also within 100 years of Shakespeare at this point. This isn't that big of a leap. And how
You're not allowed to
quickly
leap, Ashley. No leaping.
I'm sorry. How quickly we walked slowly and
Deliberately.
deliberately and sedately.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So during this time, Charles II was in exile in a place called Jersey, which is a little island.
Place called Jersey Shore.
Not Jersey Shore, but that's a whole other show,
Yeah.
But it's an island country off the coast of France. So he was very close to France, but it was ruled by England. So he was safe, but he was living as a commoner at the time, and he was kind of living off charity and in social limbo. He eventually did make it to France and the French court, which is where he learned a lot of things about theater and art that he liked and all of the pleasures of the world that he loved and brought back to England. So that's what was going on while Nell was growing up.
Mm-hmm. Because as we know from the Olympics, France.
Right? France. All right, so back to Nell. She was born to a mother, Helen or Helena Gwynn, and a father, Thomas Gwynn, by most accounts. They're not quite sure. They think he, Thomas, was a captain in the Royal Army, and she was born in either Oxford or London. They don't know. On that star chart, it doesn't say. It says everything else, but it doesn't say where she was born.
Hilarious.
I know.
They're like,
So
we
her
know
father-
exactly where the planets were and where the sun was lined, but not the town.
They think that because it didn't say and it's kept in Oxford, that means she was born in Oxford. But because they don't know for sure, they don't say. But her father is believed to have died in debtor's prison because it's not bad enough that you're in debt. You have to go to prison for it. So no money. And she moved to London with her mother and her sister, Rose, who's a few years older than her. We don't know anything about her mom, Madam Gwynn, as they call her. Before her time in London, she could very well have been like of high birth and had even a title. But her husband was in debtor's prison. They lost all their money, and she descended into London's bawdy underworld because of circumstance. She had nothing. She had to take care of her kids and herself. So a life of prostitution soon followed, and she soon ran her own bawdy house.
This is
Is that
the
like
mom.
a brothel?
This is the mom. Okay, so a bawdy house is very similar to a brothel. A brothel, the research I've done, a brothel has ladies who live there. They're there all the time. That's what you're going for. A
In
bawdy
residence, they have their
in
own room.
residence, yes. You pick a woman, you go to her room. That's what you do. In a bawdy
Brothel.
house, they are serving drinks and food. And if a gentleman would like a lady, they call one of the women. They have rooms there. She comes over, does her thing with him, and then leaves.
And
So
is
they
it-
don't
so it's-
live there.
So it's more like I would say like more like a strip club situation
Yeah.
where it's like we have rooms for a private
rooms for that,
interaction, but it's also more of a social, like you're here for drinks, you're here
Yeah, it's
for
almost
entertainment.
like a tavern almost.
Like a saloon. It was like the
Yeah,
predecessor
yes.
to the saloon. So is it
Got
bawdy, B-O-D-Y, or bawdy, B-A-W-D-Y?
B-A-W-D-Y, like a bod. They called the women bods. That's where that comes from.
Bods,
Bod-
broads.
Bod, body broad.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So she runs a bawdy house, which is
She runs-
less salacious than a full-on brothel.
Brothel.
Yes. And her daughters worked there serving drinks. And Nell, to her dying day, says that she never worked as a prostitute. They
Okay.
do believe, however, that her sister Rose did.
Got it. She's like, I'm serving a bevy. This is the full
That's
extent
what I
of my
did.
participation.
Correct. So she had a very active imagination as a kid, and on her time off from serving at her mom's bawdy house, she'd play and put on plays in the alleys with the other kids. And she would have been 10 years old, by most accounts, when Charles II returned to power. And she used to make up stories about how one day she would marry the king and invite them all to court.
And then
cute.
she did.
Kinda.
Kinda.
So Charles II returned to England on May 25th, 1660. And this is why it's called the Restoration, because it was the restoration of the crown. There was no monarchy during that time. It's called the Restoration because he was restored to power. He was restored to power on May 29th, 1660. It was his 30th birthday. So that's kind of cool. And there was just like a huge street party in London. Everybody was so happy, and I think probably thought it was a little surreal that the king was actually back because they had lived through this really horrible time.
Who was in charge
mean-
when there was no monarchy?
It was called the Long Parliament, and a gentleman named Cromwell,
Thomas?
Oliver Cromwell.
Oliver. Got it.
Thomas was an earlier Cromwell,
Okay.
like King Henry VIII Cromwell.
Right. He was his, right.
So kind of what happened is Cromwell died and his son took over, but his son wasn't good at it. And so he lost power. That's kind of like the short version. And if I'm wrong, listeners, that it was Oliver, like, come at me. I apologize. I got a lot of stuff and I didn't write that down. That's bringing out when I was a history minor for a hot minute.
Don't fact check us on Instagram.
Don't fact
please.
check us on
We're
that. Just know I could be wrong, and that's fine. But yeah, it was this big street party. Bells rang out in all the churches. The streets were strewn with flowers. There were banners on all the buildings. The fountains were filled with wine. Everybody was just
Ooh.
having a good time.
Oh,
'Cause
so they
now,
went into
right?
full bacchanal after
Well,
the whole don't
exactly.
leap, don't walk, don't. Now they're like, let's
Exactly.
just dump some wine in
Yes.
this giant tavern and just.
Exactly.
God.
They had this time of complete, like, they couldn't do anything.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they can do anything they want. And that's why Restoration comedy is the way that it is. That's why Nell's situation is the way that it is. That's why King Charles is the way that he is. So that's why I wanted to say all that, because it's important just because of how everything goes.
Yeah.
Context is key.
Context is key. So very soon after that, 1662, the king married a Portuguese princess named Catherine. She actually ends up being barren. So there are a lot of plots as his reign goes on to try to usurp her and bring someone else in because she cannot give him a child.
Her one job
as the queen, she couldn't do. And sadly, I'd love to say it was him, but it wasn't because he had a bunch.
Unlike Henry VIII, we know that.
We know.
Yeah.
We know. But some say that this sent Nell into her very first affair, that she was very upset that the king got married. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say. This is a little odd, and again, maybe a little trigger warning, but she started this affair when she was most likely 12 years old.
What?
Yes.
Whoa.
The age of consent for women in the 1600s was 14, so it was a little early, but I think she was kind of forced into adulthood a little early, working in a bawdy house. And if we
She'd
remember,
seen some stuff.
Speaking of Romeo and Juliet was 13.
Right. So,
Wow.
and her affair was with the king that young?
No.
Or this
His
was a
name's
different-
Robert Duncan. He was a merchant. So her first lover, let's say.
Got it.
Or first person that took care of her sugar daddy. He paid for her housing for 2 years.
Okay,
what
so
happened.
her entree into the business of being a kept woman, she's
Basically.
like, I've been serving drinks, which, by the way, essentially she's a small child serving
She's
drinks
10.
at the bawdy house then.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. So she's probably grown up pretty fast. She's seen some stuff. She's not participating, but by the time she's 12, she's like, you know what? I bet I could make some money going down this road.
I'm out of here. Like, let's go. So
Interesting.
Yes.
Huh.
She moved from her mother's bawdy house into the Cock and Pie, a tavern.
The Cock and Pie.
The Cock and Pie.
Somebody reopen this establishment immediately. You are leaving money on the table.
I know, I love it.
Wow.
And this was a tavern that was very near where Thomas Killigrew was building his new theater, where she would someday work. So, the restoration of King Charles II brought about some things that he loved, which was art, theater, and science. He poured a ton of money and research into this stuff. He loved it. So he granted licenses for 2 theater companies. Thomas Killigrew for the King's Company and William Devenant for the Duke's Company, one named after him, one named after his brother. He also officially allowed women to grace the stage. He made a decree allowing women on stage for the first time, and it said, "We do likewise permit and give leave that all women's parts to be acted of the said 2 companies for the time to come may be performed by women."
Wow.
So
because
he made
before
that
this, and before this, Jen, under no circumstances on the English stage were women ever on the stage doing anything. We had essentially men in drag, yes?
Correct. Contrary to the movie Shakespeare in Love, women were not allowed on stage.
Also, did you know the word drag came from Shakespeare's time? They would write it in the side notes of the play. They would say something like, Juliet enters in drag. Drag meant dressed as a girl.
What?
Of course it did.
Yep.
I feel like I knew that way back in my brain. I love it.
That's like golf. It used to be gentlemen only,
Gentlemen
ladies
only?
forbidden.
I didn't know
Golf came
that.
from. Yeah.
Gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. Golf.
Bastards. Yeah. Drag, dressed as a girl.
I love it. There you go, everybody. That's what it means. And it came from Shakespeare himself.
Yep.
I love it. So the King's Playhouse, which is mostly what we're going to talk about because that's where Nell worked, opened in 1663 on May 7th. And this gave women professional freedom that they had never had before. So now they don't have to be prostitutes, which is kind of that, or a serving wench is what you can do, basically.
It's like
or get married.
Other jobs becoming available
Another job.
to women.
Exactly.
What a concept.
Right? So it allowed Nell to be free from Duncan and from pouring drinks at bawdy houses. Experienced actresses could expect 30 shillings a week, which is, in today's money, $200.
That seems like not
for a
bad for
star.
back then, right?
No.
It seems like,
In today's money,
yeah.
$200 a week.
But
That's not a lot.
Not a
of
lot
money. It's not a living wage on its own, but it's
correct.
better than like, well, all you have is the one choice.
Yeah, but it's not like $15 a week or something.
A lot of women were also kept women. But that was just that was for experienced actresses. A star would make 50 shillings a week, which is about $330 in today's money. Most would make 10 to 15 shillings a week, which is $67.
There we go.
Money. So
there we go. Okay.
It's like that's like community theater gas stipend.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And
you know who you are.
Yeah. Their male counterparts, of course, would make more. But it's a start.
Okay, well, again, better than nothing, and better than just not being allowed to be on the stage at all. Yeah. But like, my God, really baby steps here.
I know. I am going to give you a random side note because we're not really going to talk about the Duke's company, but William Devenant, who ran that, he was the manager. This is fun for me because I'm from Maryland. He was actually sent to America to be the lieutenant governor of Maryland in 1643, but was captured at sea and sent to the Tower of London, so he didn't make it.
That is wild.
Like, what? Yeah. He's fine. He got out in 1654, so everything's
fine.
good. But he's fine. But
did he have syphilis? Did he have syphilis?
Probably. Everybody did.
Everyone. Syphilis
did.
All around.
Yeah. So, the King's Playhouse, which is where Nell
There's
will
no
very
I
soon...
in syphilis, but there is us.
Pretty sure there's an I or two. I don't know. I wrote it a couple times, but I don't know.
They're going to come for us on Instagram. There absolutely is an I in syphilis.
But we put the us in, how about that? We put the us in syphilis.
There you go.
Okay.
So at the King's Playhouse, there was a woman named Orange Mall who was a former prostitute, and she was given license to sell oranges during the show. She could vend, utter, and sell oranges, lemons, fruit, sweetmeats, which are like confections and things like that, and all manner of fruits and confections. They were offered at breaks with cries of, "Oranges! Will you have any oranges?" That's what she yelled. And she was, I know, it's so fun. She was an old friend of Madame Gwynn's. So she gave Nell and her sister Rose jobs as orange girls.
Orange girls.
They worked 6 days a week, day off on Sunday. They dressed all in white and sold oranges for 6p. They were not sold to the balconies ever so that they couldn't be used as projectiles onto the actors. So just side note, they didn't let that happen. And they would also run messages between gentlemen and ladies, actors, and their admirers for extra tips. There was actually a tunnel from the front of the house to backstage so the orange girls could go during the show to give them their notes and everything. Yeah.
So again, like this was like the social experience of going to the theater. It wasn't like sitting sedately just in your seat, like everyone shut up, we're doing acting.
Absolutely. They were rowdy. There were duels in the middle of performances. If the audience didn't like what was being said, they'd yell out their own lines. Like it was not about seeing the art at all. And the best seats were up. They had boxes for the first time. There were also audience members on the stage yelling at the actors, and the king would have sat, if you were sitting in the audience and looking at the stage, the king would have been right up over the stage. So he wasn't watching the show. He was there to be seen. So that's what it was all about. It was being seen at that time. It was also the first time the proscenium was used. And scenery, which I'll get to in a second. There's a theater superstition that goes along with that.
Fascinating.
Let's see. So I thought this was funny. Their notoriety and profanity were infamous. So everybody knew Nell was an orange girl because she cursed so much.
Oh.
So,
I have a mouth like an orange girl.
Mouth like an orange girl. Just a quick side note. So this was the first time like scenery was used, and the stage for our theater geeks out there was raked. So it was on a slant. That's where we get upstage and downstage from. Downstage was close to the audience because you were down. Upstage was up and away. But they actually had scenery for the first time, and the people they would get to move the scenery were sailors. And they had their own language because on ships they would whistle different things. That's why you don't whistle in a theater.
You're not supposed to, yeah, exactly. You're not supposed to whistle in the theater.
Because at this time, if you whistled in the theater and you whistled the wrong whistle, you would literally get like a sandbag on your head.
On your head, yeah.
We've learned so much today.
I knew that superstition, don't whistle because something will fall on your head, but I didn't know where that came from. So
Sailors. The sailors are to blame.
The sailors.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So theater was now a place for the elite. It wasn't like Shakespeare, and it was for the groundlings, and you could pay like, a bit piece and come in and stand and yell. It was all about being seen and all about mingling, and everybody went backstage. And a lot of the actresses also worked as prostitutes to make ends meet, but also maybe to become somebody's mistress, because that was a pretty damn good living to have.
This is fascinating. This is fascinating context, just a digression, but like, I feel like we've already talked about Evelyn Nesbit and even Annie Russell and some other ladies of the stage, but I feel like maybe this is where, for better or worse, this idea of, actresses being synonymous with sex workers got started, because frankly it was.
They actually were.
Because it really and truly, and not in an apologetic way, it was just like, hey, we had this career and now we have this career option as well. And so, as time has gone on and more has become available to women, and even throughout history, but at the same time, just this idea of you being like a bawdy woman or like a fallen woman. It's like, oh, an actress, like how embarrassing. We're talking about like 1650s, thinking about in Little Women, which is 1860s. Like, they're talking about even 200 years forward still, women on the stage is essentially tantamount to prostitutes. Yeah. And it's like, well, to know that this is the origin, I think it does sort of help unpack that a little bit, aside from the maybe immodesty of it, but then to know that it was like, no, this really was how it got started, just to overcome that hurdle socially and to reverse engineer that as time went on. And it's like, no, I'm not a sex worker, I'm just an actress. I feel like that makes sense to me, is like why it was harder to separate the two.
Absolutely. It was like ingrained in society's blood for so long. And I mean, I think in a way it's still happening. I mean, casting couches
for sure.
and all of that shit.
Oh,
it's still happening all the time.
Yeah. And again, people who are puritanical are like, a woman's place is in the home, not making a spectacle of herself. Like,
How dare you? I will make a spectacle of myself every day.
I saw you leaping.
Yeah. Did you see it? Oh my God. No, I agree with you 100%. And I think that's one of the reasons this fascinates me so much. And I wanted to make sure everybody knew about it, because it also, in context of Nell, is really important.
Totally. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. I had no idea about any of this, Jen. So thank you for being our educational resource today. This is great.
Such a theater geek, and I love it.
She's our dramaturg. She's like our
right?
Absolutely.
Restoration. I also didn't know where the word restoration came from.
There you go. Restored to the throne.
It was, they were restored.
Yeah, the monarchy was restored. Yeah.
Also, there is an I in syphilis. Just so
Told you. It's like S-Y Phyllis, and there's an I in Phyllis. We got this, guys.
Added to the merch list.
Pinkies up. So Nell was now like truly immersed in the theater world. She moved to another tavern called the Cat and Fiddle, which was in the south part of Drury Lane, and that's where most of the actors lived. So she was there with everybody. She was a teenager when she was plucked from being an orange girl to be trained as an actress. Nell was very beautiful. Everybody said so. She had reddish brown hair, a heart-shaped face, little dimpled cheeks, hazel eyes, and her legs and feet became of great fame, apparently. So they put her in breeches for a lot. Yeah.
She had like the restoration version of an OnlyFans for her feet.
Yes, basically. But also, along with her beauty, her wit and charm really won the hearts of those around her. Everybody just fell in love with Nell. So she was trained by two men. One was Charles Hart, who was the co-manager and an actor in the company, and John Lacey, who was also an actor. Lacey was the company's leading comedian. He was almost 50, but of course, rumored to have an affair with Nell. We don't know if it's true, but rumored to. Hart was about 10 years younger. He was 40, one of its leading actors. He coached her, he starred beside her, and did become her lover. So they do know that happened. Now she's like 17.
Creepy old man alert.
Yeah.
Why is
theater, as always, Auga.
Why is this a feature?
It's such a feature in our podcast. They actually became like Go ahead.
I was just to say, like, we're not making this up. Like, this is demonstrably, like, from the dawn of time, as long as women have been on the stage, there have been creepy old men being like, let me get in there.
She's 12, that's almost 14. Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's fine.
Ooh.
She at least is 17 at this point, so, you know.
Not better.
No, not really.
Not any better.
They did kind of become a power couple of the theater world, and it was keenly followed by the public. So it was like a little benefer. Like they were like, "Ooh, what's happening with Charles Hart and Nell this week?" Like they had to know. This is funny. Her very first part was a bit part in this play called The Siege of Urban, and it was called a breeches role. So a breeches role was when women wore pants so they could show off their legs, because that was scandalous.
Oh.
Breeches role. She was, however, not allowed to fight. Either she was really bad at it, or they just didn't trust her with the swords. So
could other women fight, or it was just Nell?
Just not Nell. They just
not Nell. They're like, keep the sharp
like,
objects away from that one. She cannot be trusted.
No.
This is the same. I'm not allowed to throw things on stage. I don't have any hand-eye coordination. This has been learned the hard way more than once. Where it's like, just toss it over, and I'm like, we need to make a different choice because no one is going to be happy with how this goes. Just have you seen me throw anything on stage lately? No, you haven't, because
I haven't.
Know your limits, girl. It's good.
That's right. That's right.
Right. But her first big role was as Paulina in Tom Killigrew's Thomasa. It was in 1664. So she was only an orange girl for a year before they were like, come be an actress on this stage. And this is fascinating. She had to learn her parts by repetition because she was completely illiterate. The only thing she ever learned to do was sign her initials, E.G.
So she's not reading lines. She's just someone was saying them to her, and she's just repeating it back.
And
oh my
she's
god!
Repeating them. So her memory had to have been astounding because she didn't just have to know that play; she had to know the entire repertoire of the company. Because get this, marketing ladies, if the audience didn't like the play, they changed it the next day. They're like, "Oh, that one didn't go over well. Let's do a different one." So she had to be ready at any point to go on.
There's some value in that philosophy.
There is. Let's talk about having companies and going back to that world theater. But yeah, she had to know the entire. Everybody did, because they could change the play in a moment's notice.
Can you imagine rocking up at like Wicked on Broadway and then just being like, I have notes.
They're like, you know what? Nobody liked this one. Back to The King and I. Everybody.
It's like Fierro seems like he kind of sucks.
Yeah. Is it just him or like the character in general?
Right.
Do we need to do the play or do we just need to recast? Because we got an understudy.
That's right.
You know. So then in 1665, the bubonic plague hit London. So that closed the theaters down. In 1666, the Great Fire of London closed everything down. And
it was a rough
burned
time.
a lot of
It was
stuff.
a rough time.
It was a rough time.
The restoration is off to a great start. Yeah.
Off to a great start. Nell was unemployed for 18 months. Not a lot of people know what was going on during that time. But when she came back, she was in leading roles and making friends in high places. So, to the scandal. Here we go. This is what it's all about. King Charles II, notorious womanizer, as I hinted at before. He already had many mistresses. Side note, one of them, Elizabeth Killigrew, is the descendant of a pirate, Mary Killigrew, who used to work for Queen Elizabeth I. They have a kid together, so there is someone out there that has the descendants of a pirate and royalty. And I think that's the coolest shit in the world.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Their Ancestry.com tree must be really cool.
Anyway, he had many, many mistresses. A pirate descendant, also a woman named Barbara Palmer, who actually ends up being kind of Nell's biggest rival, and a whole bunch of others. They kind of met, and he kind of got an eye for her when she performed in John Dryden's play Secret Love. And he loved it so much, the king loved it so much. I know.
So ironic.
He called it his play. Like, he loved it so much. And this was 1667. March 2nd, actually. I love that they have actual dates. It was really cool. So Nell played the comedy so well, and this is what she was really known for. She was a wonderful comedian, that the king's gaze was won. And it really solidified her as a star. And this is when she was 17 years old.
The king's gaze was won?
Yeah. She won the king's gaze.
Oh, I thought you meant O-N-E. I was like, it's one what?
W-O-N.
Did he have a lazy eye? And it like brought them together.
He might have. He did have syphilis. So
this was a talent crush, though. This is
yes.
Sorry.
This is very cute.
Right. It's cute. He was like, oh, she's cute. So at the same time, the same month that this Secret Love premiered, a rivalry with Mal Davis from the Duke's Theater came to light. So this wasn't something that necessarily Nell and Mal wanted. It was the press and people kind of pitted them against one another, even though Mal was not an actress. She was a dancer, and she danced very suggestively. That was her thing, and she was not as beautiful as Nell. But they were like, they're about the same age. Let's,
But they were
make them hate each other.
She was so Mal, the same orange Mal?
No, different.
Oh.
Mal Davis, she was an actress.
Different Mal. We've got two Mals in the mix.
Two Mals going on.
I feel like, for some reason, this particular episode, I'm having trouble.
Following?
Just
There's
the
a
words.
lot.
Mal, one. I don't know. I'm just.
It's okay. Syphilis has an eye.
I don't know.
It's fine.
I don't know. You know what? I probably had too much gluten in the last couple days, and it's fried my brain. So
That's what it is.
Apologies. I'm really smart. I have a really big deal job.
Olivia has a master's degree, but today she's just adding to color commentary. She knows.
Prepare.
You're fine, Olivia. This is great. Yeah.
At this time, Nell was actually targeted as the king's mistress because there was this gentleman of the court named Buckingham, and he thought she would be very malleable. So some of the other mistresses weren't, and he was like, ooh, but Nell could be. So Barbara Palmer, who's this woman that became Nell's biggest rival, she was the king's main mistress for a long, long time. And she was a gold digger. The commoners did not like her. And she dallied in politics, and his advisors did not like that. So real quick, Jen, just to give context too, like the king's mistress, this was not a secret. This was like an official, everyone knows who it is. This is a job. This is very open. She had apartments in the castle. The queen knows.
She lived
Everybody
there.
knows.
Okay.
Everybody knows. And everybody knows he has more than one. You just kind of know who's the favorite at the time.
Yeah, but unlike some recent, like I feel like today when we hear like, oh, a mistress, it's usually like you're finding out as part of like an expose, a scandal. Right. Oh my God, who could have known? And this is just like, no, you have a mistress. Of course you do. You have 5.
I read this thing. It was very interesting. It wasn't only accepted, it was actually expected for men of means to have mistresses because it was like another job for women. I mean, it was kind of like, oh, well, you have money, so you need to help take care of these people.
Wow. I was like, if you don't have a mistress, it's, I'm sorry, do you hate people? Are you not charitable?
Do you hate
like,
people? Right, exactly.
Wow.
How dare you? Yeah.
It was the first form of
fascinating.
The first form of nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the king had the most money, so he had to have a lot of them.
So did Nell live in the castle?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there. Okay. Barbara did at the time.
Right.
But so nobody liked Barbara. And Buckingham was kind of like, all right, let's figure this out. Because everybody also knew the queen was barren. So he kind of, as the time went on, was kind of coming up with these plots to get rid of the queen.
Buckingham was?
Yes, and to get somebody else in there that could produce an heir legitimately. And it never really worked because the king loved his wife and wanted to take care of her, and he wasn't going to divorce her.
How unusual.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, Buckingham took on managing Nell. So let's say he became her pimp. He was like, all right, I like you. We're going to try to use you in my royal plot.
Yeah, you're malleable.
You're malleable. But in case you don't work out, I'm going to bring Mal Davis also. She's going to be a backup, right? So it's said that he took Mal Davis and Nell Gwynn up the back stairs with liaisons to the king. And the story goes that Nell said, okay, I will do it. I will be your mistress for £500 a year. Now, that in today's money in US dollars is $122,698.40. So know your worth, girl. You know? She said, that's what I want.
Pounds. Right. I was thinking, because it was
That's
the
in US
60
dollars.
shillings
Like,
a week, 50 pounds. Got it.
We're in Pound Town now, Olivia.
We're in Pound Town.
We're in Pound Town now.
Oh, now you're speaking my language.
She wants basically in today's money a 6-figure salary for being his mistress. He's the king. He can afford it.
Get it, girl.
And the king said, no. So he took Moll on as his mistress for a little while, and
cheap.
Nell was pretty pissed about it because she liked the king, and she had these stories of growing up and being, because he was a good-looking guy. He had really dark black hair. Like, he was a good-looking guy.
Yeah, he's like 30. He's not like old and like creepy old man alert.
Yeah, he's
like
not 50. So at this time, the king gave Moll a house on Suffolk Street and a ring worth far more than the 500 pounds a year that Nell wanted. So she was pissed and wanted a little revenge.
Oh.
So Nell used a laxative in some sweetmeats for Moll.
What?
Yep.
Amazing.
She gave her some sweet treats with a laxative in it on a night that she knew she was going to go visit the king. Moll had a very unpleasant evening, much to Nell's delight.
This is like a Mean Girls move. This is like a Regina George special.
Wow.
Yeah, Nell was always herself, and I love that about her. So,
Incredible.
Nell's relationship with King Charles II started as just like a talent crush. Like you said, it was just entertainment as an actress, but it soon blossomed into more, and Nell was very strategic about it. She understood him as a man and not as a king. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that she was a commoner, very much common, and like from the very bottom up. And he was the same way for a long time before he was restored to the throne.
Yeah, he was living in exile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she wanted to make sure that her love for the king would be reciprocated. So she went to the king with regularity, but she kept her dwellings on Drury Lane. So she still lived in this little tavern called the Cat and Fiddle. And she worked at the theater for another 3 years while she started to become his mistress.
Kept her options open.
Mm-hmm. This really fun story in 1668, it says that Nell went to the theater. She wasn't on stage, but she went to the theater with Buckingham, the king, and the king's brother, James. They talked all night long, and they were horrible audience members, of course. And then they left for dinner. Nell joined them. Now, if you know anything about royalty, they don't carry money, even today. Like, they do not carry money, credit cards, anything. They're not allowed. So they don't have any money, and Nell had to pay for everything.
Stop it.
She's quoted as saying, "This is the poorest company I ever was with." She's
Very
like,
nice.
the king of England.
Great.
And that night is kind of said to be what really solidified their relationship. And she gave in to the king in 1668, and he would end up being her protector for the rest of his life, and really the rest of hers, because he left first, but he took care of her. So by the summer of 1668, the public knew of Nell's relationship with the king, and it gave her even more star power. Everybody came to the theater because they wanted to find clues of their love affair.
Like
They
clues
had to know.
in the show or something? Like they
No,
would-
just is he there? Are they talking to each other? Are they fanning? Whatever.
Is she giving him fan sign language?
And yes, I said no too quickly. Another little history lesson. Before every play in Restoration Theater, they would do an epilogue, but the epilogue was just kind of filling people in on everyday events. So yes, it could have been just
like a
this
news
what's going
brief.
on with the
Like when you went to the movies, back in
Yes,
the
like a newsreel, yeah.
40s, there would always be a newsreel. This was the newsreel.
Yeah.
Today in the world.
Yeah, so she was a star now. She was promoted to her own dressing room. She had her own dressing room now and her own dresser. So.
Oh my.
Yeah. The public absolutely loved her, and she really, the reason she's so famous, other than, of course, her affair with the king, is that she became the first superstar of the stage.
So she's killing it over here on all fronts.
Killing it.
She's and probably financially speaking, she is as a lady, she is doing just about as well as anyone could possibly hope.
Exactly. She's doing pretty good. So she and the king liked to visit his country estates together. She was a country girl at heart, kind of. She liked to get out of the city. So they would go to Newmarket a lot, and they summered in Windsor. So here, you can go look at a picture if you would like. There was a house on Church Street in Windsor, and that is where she stayed for a while. Eventually, he builds her a house. But if you go in the drive, and we'll put it on our social, there's a little house, and it has some signs out that say Nell Gwynn. And when I went, I was like, Nell Gwynn? And I literally froze in the middle of Church Street, looked to my left, and Windsor Castle is less than a block away. It's right there. And I was like, oh my God. This was her house. Like it has to have been her house.
Wow.
And it took me a while to figure it out because she also has another house that was built later, and that's the one that's more attributed to her. But this is where she stayed for the majority of their 17-year relationship, is this little house that now is a Nell Gwynn tea room and a Nell Gwynn Chinese restaurant.
Oh, that's random. What? Wait.
I know, it's so random.
What a combo, yeah.
I know. And there are said to be tunnels from her house to his bedchamber.
Ooh.
Hey friends, Jen here, and we hope you're enjoying this episode of Life Upon the Wicked Stage. Just a few quick reminders. If you're looking for any of the visuals that we've mentioned in this or any episode of the podcast, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Wicked Stage Pod or Facebook at Life Upon the Wicked Stage. If you want more, please join our Patreon by searching the Wicked Stage Podcast. There you'll find ad-free episodes, videos of our recordings, mini-sodes, behind-the-scenes content, giveaways, and so much more. And the most important side note, if you like the show, please give us a nice rating wherever you listen. It sounds silly, but it's still the best way to get the word out and support us in this crazy podcast world. Well, lights are blinking, intermission's over, so grab those snacks and another drink and enjoy the rest of the show. But here's where things get a little more interesting. So a lot of his mistresses were ladies, like they came from royal upbringing. Nell wasn't. She was a commoner. She was an actress. So she would never get invitations to court. She always had to come up the back stairs. But when the king was in Windsor for the entire 17 years, that was like their time. They could nobody else was around. They just kind of got to be like Nell and Charles, which I think is sweet. And Windsor is beautiful, and there's this huge park that's totally private for them to be on, and they could fish and hunt and ride horses and, just live a fairy tale life for a little bit.
Aww.
In August 1669, Nell became pregnant with their first child, and in May 1670, she gave birth to their first son, Charles. So now...
named after him.
Named after him. He had a couple named after him.
Whole bunch of Charles, just spares just running around.
He was like the George Foreman of...
Yeah.
There's a ton of Charles running around. Yeah. Charles, Chucky, Chuck, Charlie.
All of them.
Yeah.
So now her future was secure. She didn't have to worry about anything because the king always took care of his sons. So whatever would come of their affair, it didn't matter. She was going to be taken care of. He wouldn't let her not be. And the birth of their child kind of ended up being a turning point in their relationship. She really trusted there was now a deeper connection, and she had these secret thoughts that maybe he'd marry her someday. But I know, it's sad. I actually got a little teared up when I was writing some of this. It's a little sad.
Yeah.
But Charles he really fought feelings of intimacy with his wit. He was a very funny guy. He kept his mistresses at arm's length, but Nell was the exception. She demanded love, intimacy, and friendship. She wouldn't have it any other way. So a lot of people talk about the fact that both of them had become adults very, very quickly. So they shared that bond. They also both suffered from depression as adults. So they shared that bond as well. They could kind of take care of each other. But she challenged him to a deep and meaningful friendship. They would talk, they would laugh, they would philosophize, and basically they were equals in every way except status. So that's why their relationship lasted so very long. So 1670, she's now his main mistress. Barbara's out.
Get out of here, Barbara.
She's out.
Bad.
Get out of here. But I do have to say this. So she had a couple kids by him, and she ended up with a £30,000 a year pension from the crown. In today's money, everybody, that's over $8 million a year.
Babs did okay.
Babs did okay.
Wow.
Ever the money-grabbing whore that she was, she did okay.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
That's what everybody called her. Listen.
Oh, I was like,
Floozy alert.
damn.
Listen. Floozy alert indeed, but not the wrong kind.
We are quoting directly money-grabbing whore.
Yes.
That's not our words. That's
exactly.
just...
It's just what she was
quoting.
called.
Sign of
Quoting
the times.
history.
Yeah. So Nell said goodbye to one of her rivals, just as, of course, another one comes in, and it is a lady from France. Her name is Louise de Coaillet. I don't know if I said that correctly, but I did look it up, and one of them said it like that. The Duchess of Portsmouth. Side note, she is an ancestor of both Princess Diana and Queen Camilla.
What?
Both of them?
Wait.
Both of them.
Does that mean they're related?
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, way back, sure.
Yeah, somewhere that they were on the same family tree before they split off. What? That's crazy.
That's weird.
Crazy, right?
Huh.
So I love all these random side notes. Nell hated Louise, like, from the start. She called her Weeping Willow. She was very dramatic, but not in a good way. Like, she was crying all the time. She would, if someone, like, from Sweden, like, the King of Sweden died, and she would dress in mourning wear. And, oh, the King of Sweden. And Nell's like, you don't know him.
Louise is like, I just have a lot of feelings.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. But Buckingham was actually trying to usurp the queen with Louise at this point because she was a lady from the court of France. So Nell obviously didn't like that too much.
So Buckingham is like, I'm going to have better luck with a lady mistress usurper than a commoner mistress usurper for my political plans.
Correct. Even though like Nell and Buckingham were friends, and they were, she gave him a good slap one time because he tried something with her, and she was like, "No, sir."
Oh,
Yes, girl.
I know, she's great.
does Buckingham have anything to do with the name Buckingham Palace?
Yes. So Buckingham is a title given to people.
Wait,
So
his
so
name
there are
wasn't
many
Buckingham.
earls and dukes of Buckingham. They get the title from the king.
Oh,
or the
so he
queen.
was the title Buckingham. He wasn't his
Yes, that
last
wasn't his
name.
last name.
He wasn't like John Buckingham.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
So at around this time, Nell was really itching to get back on stage. So John Dryden brought her The Conquest of Granada, which was a two-parter. It was going to be done in 2 different seasons, where she rehearsed in her bedroom and she made Charles memorize lines with her. Which I just think is so funny.
She's like, you're going to read lines with me. He's like, not again.
I think it's great. But he loved art, so I think he probably had a great time.
That's so cute.
I know. So in December of 1670, she returned to the stage in part 1 of this play. And then in January of 1671, part 2, and this would have been her final performance. And her career in the theater only lasted about 7 years. So 10 years less than her affair with the king.
Oh.
But she was a star because of that. So
Amazing.
it's really.
Why did
it's
she
very,
retire
very cool.
from the stage so soon?
Because she devoted herself to the king.
Okay. Oh.
She was investing in her relationship and probably at that point her kiddos, I would think.
Yes, because then in the next year on Christmas, December 25th, she had her second son, James, with the king. It's important to note that King Charles would continue to have many mistresses throughout his life. Nell was his main mistress for most of those 17 years. She would never take another man to her bed. All of his other mistresses did. Nell never would.
Aww.
I know.
So she really was, I mean, again, it's like, yeah, it's a job and it's a business relationship to a certain degree, but also it sounds like for her, it was also like an emotional investment. No, I really do actually like you and want to be with you. So before she was like fantasizing about what if we could get married, you know, unlike other people who are, you know, take the money and run.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, I'm going to like keep my other side pieces going.
Absolutely. And I think she was very cautious of all of that. She was smart, really smart, and so much smarter than people gave her credit for. But she knew, I mean, she came from nothing. She had to be maybe a little more careful than everybody else, too.
True.
But I do believe, as heartbreaking as it is, I think she really, really loved him. You know, it's heartbreaking. But he gave her a lot. In February 1671, she got a new house, 79 Pall Mall in London. So now she is officially a lady in everything but title.
Wow.
She has a house to herself. She can decorate it any way she wants. She has a pension. I think she gets like £4,000 a year. And she bought a bed, a silver bed, made custom for her that cost £100,000
Whoa.
in 1660 money.
That's...
When it was like the gaudiest thing, probably.
I was
Yeah,
like,
a
I
silver
wish we
bed.
had pictures of this.
I
Yeah.
know, me too.
Wow.
I know.
It's like the equivalent to having like mirrors all over the room, a silver
Yes.
bed, you know?
Yes. So this house kind of became a political meeting place for the king because
Her house?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the castle has ears. So when he had to discuss something, he brought them to 79 Pall Mall, and she wasn't political. She provided refreshments. and entertainment. She did like skits on political figures. There were musicians. There were singers. She had a big old party for everybody.
She just did her own variety show at her house.
She loved to entertain. And the king visited her very, very often, and she followed him wherever he went. She actually really took pleasure in entertaining the king and his entourage. So she wasn't acting on stage anymore, but she was still doing her thing in court.
This is such a nice,
with everybody,
different story than like the one Ashley told and the one I told about women suffering with illness and abusive husbands and sexual assault. Nell had kind of a nice time.
Yeah,
oddly refreshing. Yeah,
it is, right?
Yeah.
And in this is fun. In 1672, she was given the title position of Lady of the Queen's Privy Chamber, which was nothing but a title and a way to put her on the payroll.
Oh, so did
now,
the Queen? I'm sure the Queen really didn't want to have anything to do with her because she was like the favorite
not really.
mistress,
I mean,
right?
she knew she was around, and honestly, the Queen knew she was barren.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And the king was taking care of her. He wasn't beating her. He was being nice to her, and I'm sure she had lovers too. I could have gone down that rabbit hole, but probably.
Well, and he let her stay as the queen.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, he didn't. Exactly.
Was grounds for not being the queen.
Getting
anymore.
your head cut off a couple hundred years earlier. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, she had a salary of £5,000 a year with the occasional Secret Service payments. So this means like spy work, which she never did. Some of the other mistresses did, like Louise, who took stuff back to France. Nell never did it. But with that additional money, she got about £10,000 a year, which is about $2 million for being there.
I was cleaning up.
Nell is cleaning up. I totally would have been a spy, though.
Yeah.
I would have been a spy.
Most of them
That
were.
would have been fun. That would have been fun.
Yeah, I know.
You know, just kind of like stick it to the man. Like, I have to be your mistress to survive.
But
I'm gonna also be a spy. Yeah. Kind of dig that.
So now her main rivals were Louise, the Weeping Willow. And then this woman came in named Hortense Mancini. She was an Italian noblewoman, and she was kind of an obsession of Charles's that burned very quickly, very brightly. But she was extremely unfaithful to the king, even having an affair with his daughter, Barbara Villard.
Stop. Hold on. Hortense Mancini had an affair with the king's daughter.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Her name is intense. Hortense Mancini. Like, it's good. Like, she's
Mancini.
an Italian woman. She comes in and she's like, I will make love with everybody. And they're like, okay, okay.
That is a lot. That's like some Game of Thrones nonsense. Like,
so his daughter lived in the castle. So Barbara was the daughter of his mistress, Barbara, the names, right? And she
two
lived,
Malls, two Barbaras.
So many. So she lived in her mother's old apartments in the castle. So the mistress, because she was a lady, was allowed there. Nell wasn't. Nell had to come up the back stairs. She couldn't have apartments in the castle. But he'd like come down the stairs in hopes of catching them together.
Wait, he was trying to catch them together?
Yeah, so he could kick her out.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, this just
did.
took a weird turn. Got it.
No, please tell me he wasn't like I'm into this.
No, he was not into it. He just wanted to catch her. Kind of like, are you gaslighting me? Are you gaslighting me?
Okay, got it.
Like Hortense, like
because he kind of wasn't sounding so bad, and I'm like, oh no, is this the moment where we find out?
Fine.
Okay, no, he's fine.
Okay, yeah,
right, cool.
He was like, I feel like something weird is happening. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
got it.
But so that pissed the king off, and because he expected, which is very much a kingly thing, he expected some fidelity from those closest to him.
He's the king.
He's the king. So he turned his attention back to Nell and Louise, mostly Nell.
Also, a low bar to clear, where it's like, hey, maybe just don't try to seduce my kid. Like, a low bar to clear. I'm sorry. Like,
I'm paying you $2 million a year. Could you not seduce my kid?
Pick the stable boy or something. Like, let's, keep it out of the family.
The family tree, thank you very much.
Hortense, yikes, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So in December of 1676, Nell's son Charles finally receives his title and his surname. So he is now a duke, and his name is Charles Beauclerk. So that is now his surname. He's not a Gwynn. He's a Beauclerk because he can't be Stuart, which is Charles with Stuart.
Right.
So he's Beauclerk, and that's the name of the gentleman that wrote the one book that I read. It's actually Charles Beauclerk.
Oh, the
not
Beauclerk.
him, but it's His descendant.
Descendant of. New family name.
Yes. So that's their new family name. Nell would receive her very own coat of arms soon after. So she got a coat of arms, which is pretty cool. I'll put that on the drive too. We can put it up on social media. It's pretty cool.
Cool. And she still had to take the back stairs? She had a coat of arms.
She had a coat of arms, but she wasn't. So I'll get to that in a second, actually. So she couldn't live in the castle, and she wasn't technically a lady, but he gave her a coat of arms. Her house at 79 Pall Mall would be hers as long as she wanted it. No matter what, as long as she wanted that house, it was hers. And there were several attempts to try to get Nell back on stage. They kind of kept coming back and like, come work with us. And I think she probably really wanted to, but she kept turning them down. And it's thought that she was thinking if she didn't return, she'd be more accepted as a lady and maybe could actually get her title.
And get away from the prostitute thing.
Yes. The king
finally be legit.
Exactly. The king was all about it. He was like, that's fine. It's a perfectly reasonable request. Everybody else has one. However, the high treasurer turned it down. So his advisors were like, no. So I think the coat of arms was kind of like, I'm really sorry, but hey, here's this. So all this political intrigue, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So in 1678, there was something called the Popish plot. Which was
the Popish plot.
The Popish plot. This was a plot.
That sounds much cuter than it. Yeah, that sounds awful cute for a plot. Yeah.
It's not.
Oh God.
So Charles was a Protestant. Nell was a Protestant. And the Catholics were like, nah, let's take over. So the Popish plot, a lot of that. So they were trying to kill the king and replace him with his Catholic brother, James. So,
yes.
So that's what was going on there. Nell kept him very popular because she was also a Protestant, and none of his other mistresses were. So
were they all Catholic, or they just? Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Hortense was from Italy, very Catholic country. France, very Catholic country at the time. So yes. So then we have a time in Nell's life that became very sad in July of 16.
I thought we were going to end on a happy.
No, we will.
Okay.
But we got some sad stuff to get through first. July of 1679, Nell's mother falls into a stream, drunk, and drowns. So that's what I had said earlier, that she dies in a ditch.
Literally died in a ditch.
She literally died in a ditch.
Nell's mom, so this whole time while Nell is becoming, elevating and stuff, is she giving her mom any financial support?
She's giving her mom money. She's giving her sister money. Her
Okay.
sister is in jail. Her sister's lovers are in jail. She helps get them out. Like, she's always taking care of her family. Yeah.
But
she's
her
always
mom,
taking care of her family.
Oh.
But if the mom is like drunk in a ditch and the sister is in jail, it sort of sounds like the family, as much as maybe Nell improved or elevated herself and pursued being a lady and manners and just like fitting in with like royalty, family maybe stayed a little cringe, it sounds like, and just could never quite get out of that lower class mentality.
I really think that's what it was, and that makes me think that her mom probably wasn't very highborn to begin with, or
I just want to take a moment
kind of an alcoholic.
To note, Ashley said they stayed cringe.
They did say cringe.
That's very Gen Z of you, actually.
I am an elder millennial. How dare you?
I know, but I'm saying they stayed cringe. My 13-year-old niece would be super proud of you.
Shout out to Brielle.
Shout out to Brielle.
Shout out to Brielle.
There was a 20-year-old in my house this week. My partner's children are in their 20s. This is where I get all my cool lingo.
There you go. They're
so
gonna
you can keep us current. Yeah. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, they use like it hits different. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it means.
I said something. My sister was showing me something, and it was like, instead of me saying like that's super cool, I was like, oh, that slaps, right, Austin? Because he's my 16-year-old nephew, and he just looked at me and he was like, no. Ouch. Okay.
Okay, Austin, thank you very much.
Thank you. Not cool enough. Got it.
So, all right. So, yes. So Nell's mother passes away. And Nell was in Windsor with the king at the time. So she goes back to London, which now it's like an hour drive. It's like 30 miles away. So it was a day's trip to get there.
Yeah.
When she got there, she led a procession. She had her friends from court there, Buckingham being one of them. Also the Earl of Rochester, who, the movie The Libertine, that's who it's about. He is a whole other story, so I didn't even include him, but he was salacious. And they were friends. But he was a part of this procession, and they all dressed as like bishops and led the procession through London.
Wait, like they pretended to be bishops?
Mm-hmm. And her theater family joined her, and they just like walked Madam Gwynn through the town, and then they went to a tavern, and beer freely flowed afterwards for her mom.
Okay, so lowbrow mom
Yeah.
dies in a drunken stupor in a ditch, but Nell wants to make it seem like a very refined funeral. So her and her friends dress up as bishops.
Well, I don't think it was about being refined. I think it was about having fun. At least when I read it, that's what it was. It wasn't about, it was about like making a spectacle. Like,
Wow.
it's Nell Gwynn's mom, so let's make it a production.
Oh, I like that.
It was like an original celebration of life before it was like,
Yes.
sometimes we wear black and we gather around the grave, and sometimes we just want to celebrate the person.
Exactly.
And then they went to a tavern and had a throwdown.
And had some beer. Yep. Yeah. Pretty cool, right?
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
So Nell probably would have stayed in town for a little longer, but then the king had fallen ill. Fell into some illness. And
Falling again.
Yeah, fallen ill again. And it was actually rumored that he was poisoned because it had come on so quickly, but it's fine. He had just caught in a chill. Like, he got a cold, and he was probably a typical man and was like, oh, I'm dying.
Gather all the mistresses. I have a sore throat. I may not make it through the night.
So Nell went back to Windsor to, like, care for the king.
She's like,
Threw
poor
him
baby.
upstairs,
Are you
of course.
okay? My mom just died. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, you're right. So then that was in July that her mother died. And then in December, she got some very bad news that her son, James, her youngest son, passed away at 8 years old. Nobody
At 8?
knows. 8 years old. He was in school in Paris. So was Charles. They had gone away to, fancy boarding schools.
Like you do.
And nobody really knows how. He had just gotten sick, and he got the letter that he passed away.
Oh my gosh.
So sad.
Yeah. So she didn't do well with that.
Yeah.
She couldn't even bring herself to move into her new house, which is Beaufort House in Windsor. It was built right on the outskirts of Windsor Royal Park. So she was like on the grounds of Windsor now with her own house.
But she couldn't move in?
But she couldn't move in because she was
too
so
upset?
sad. Yeah. And she
devastated,
loved
yeah.
decorating. Like, she loved making her house a home. She loved entertaining. She just couldn't bring herself to do it. And the people really had sympathy for her because they all really loved her. Again, the original People's Princess. They loved Nell. She was one of them. And Charles really tried to be there for her, but he was not good with his emotions or anyone's. So, I mean, you think I probably like the original Peter Pan complex, but he did try. She made, and with her bouts of depression too, it was probably a little extra hard.
Yeah.
But she did.
So triggering. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old would Charles have been, the son? How old would he have been at this time? Was he like older? Like, was there a big
He was
age
older.
gap?
Yeah, Charles was older.
But I mean, like, was he like a lot older, or was it more
Not
like
a lot.
like
I
he
would
was like
say
a teenager, maybe?
2 or 3 years older than him. Maybe.
Oh, okay, not that.
They were
okay, so
pretty
he
close
was-
in age. They were close.
Okay,
In age.
so
Got
he was
it.
like still a little kid too.
Yeah, he was probably no older than 12 or 13.
Okay.
Got it.
But also at school, probably at the same school.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 1681, so we're moving on along here, there was another plot to kill the king. Always. It's always a plot to kill the
There's
king.
always a plot to kill the king.
Yes. So off he and the queen go to Oxford to kind of get out of town. Nell and Louise also go, because where the king goes, his mistresses go. They're in separate coaches.
Meanwhile,
So
the queen's like, can't I get some privacy
Can't
with
I
my
get a break?
husband without these bitches?
She's probably
Come on.
fine with it, honestly. She's probably like, you know what, Charles, you weren't even my type, so it's cool.
He's like, if I'm going to be assassinated, might as well have the mistresses along.
Yeah, might as well have him with us. So the king and the queen are in their own carriage. Nell's in a carriage. Louise is in a carriage. They have separate carriages, but they're
Okay.
following, right? So this is my favorite. People start screaming at what they think is Louise's coach because Louise is Catholic. There's a plot to kill the king from the Catholics. They're pissed, right? So they start like yelling, probably throwing things, whatever, at this carriage. It's Nell's carriage. She sticks her head out of the coach and just yells at them, "Pray, good people, be civil. I am the Protestant whore."
You want the Catholic whore.
Yes.
She's in the other coach.
Yes. The people are literally yelling, "You Catholic whore!" And Nell's like, "Pray, good people, I am the Protestant whore."
I'm dead. I love it so much. She's like, that's Protestant whore to you.
You know, she had some great. I didn't say this one, but
so good.
And then were they all like, "Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, we love you." Yeah. So earlier, when Barbara was still like one of the main mistresses, she had gotten a coach and 6 horses, and that was a very like royal thing to do. So Nell hired a cart, and 6 oxen, rides by Barbara's house and goes, "To market, hoes."
The shade.
She loves
Nell is throwing some shade. I like it.
And she plotted them out. Like
and is Barbara the one that she put the X-Lax in his?
No, that was Maul.
Streets?
Davis. That was the other actress. Yeah. So she
Nell
was like, "Listen, he is my king. Get the hell away."
Yeah.
Like, bitch, get away. We got to come up with our fan.
Yeah.
With the fan signal. Yeah. But she's also like, you know what would be funny?
Yes, because she loved comedy. She loved
if I got some oxen.
Yeah.
That's great.
To market. Yeah. So these are accounts like people wrote down, and I just
Yeah.
So Nell's responsibilities throughout Charles's political woes, which there were a lot of, was basically to be a sounding board. She was really smart. She understood a lot more than people gave her credit for. The commoners loved her. To them, she was perfect. She was his constant, his comfort, his reprieve, and rarely troubled him as the others did for more money or more land or anything. She was just like grateful to be around.
Yeah.
And in a way, this is an interesting thing. She was a court jester, and that's going to sound bad, but the role of a court jester was actually a title given by the king, and the jester never left the king's side.
Yeah, also a job. Yep.
Yes, a job, and they were with them all the time to make them laugh.
Yeah, to keep his moods up, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the jester was literally given the right to basically tell the monarch the truth as long as it was funny.
Yes. Like he would be the sounding board, right? I've heard that before. That's so interesting.
She could tell him these truths that others couldn't get away with because she had such great wit and she was so funny. So she kind of was like the unofficial court jester because she was with him all the time. She told him the truth, and he listened to her. It's an interesting thing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What a concept, yeah.
I know. In the summer of 1684, they summered in Newmarket and Windsor like they always did, but the king was really starting to age rapidly. So his health was really, really deteriorating. And after that summer, he stayed indoors. He used to go for walks all the time. He used to hunt. He used to fish, but he wasn't feeling good. The syphilis and his lifestyle was catching up to him. And he stayed inside with the queen and his mistresses. So on February 2nd, 1685, he suffered a sudden apoplectic fit. And this is thought to have been brought on by the syphilis that he had.
Ooh,
and had
what
had
is
for many years.
Apoplectic? What does that mean?
It's like a, I did look it up.
Like a seizure?
No, it's not a seizure. Something stops working, like an organ stops working. Usually it's the heart or the brain. Because it can also, I think, be masked like a stroke or something. Doctors, you can come at us if you want. But
all the doctors that are listening
to this, obviously.
Both of you, yeah.
Yes. I did look it up, and now I can't remember.
We're strangely popular among the medical crowd. Yes,
absolutely.
Wait, I'm gonna give it a goog.
A rupture of an internal organ. So, yes, that's an apoplectic fit. Yes, it's described as what was known as, a stroke. So there were something.
Oh, so he either lost his mobility on one side or
well, something hemorrhaged inside of him, and he had a fit. And 4 days later, he passed away at the Palace of Whitehall, which was the palace in London. He even apologized to everybody at his bedside for taking so long to die. Because it took 4 days.
Is he like the nicest king ever? Is he the nicest king ever?
He was a nice king, and he was very casual. Like, I read that he basically had an open door policy at the castle. Anybody could come in and see him and talk to him about anything. He was very because he was a commoner for so long. He didn't necessarily feel like
right. I mean, he ran lines. He
ran lines with his mistresses.
He knew how to just I think it would be like a real person.
A real person.
Because as opposed to growing up in this, I'll say, manufactured environment of privilege and manners, where it's this isn't real life. This isn't how other people live. He kind of knew.
Yeah,
he knew.
And he wasn't brought up with people treating him kind of like a human god. You know, he wasn't raised
Sometimes
that
people
way,
didn't even know who he was.
Interesting.
You know. Yeah.
Oh,
so
I apologize. It took so long for me to die.
Yeah.
So who became king after he died then? Because he has no legitimate children. What's the plan then?
I will get to that in just a moment.
Oh,
but on his deathbed, he said to those around him, "Please do not let poor Nellie starve."
Aww. So he's like, I'm sorry that I hung on to life for the last 4 days, and then take care of my girl. Oh.
Yep. Yeah, take care of Nellie. His death fell really, really heavy on her, obviously. She was excluded from his bedchamber. So
I was just going to ask if she was there. She wasn't there.
So it is said that when she heard he was sick and that he was dying, she rushed to Whitehall hoping that they would let her in, but they didn't let her in.
I hate that.
I know.
That's
I know.
awful.
Because she was... No. Yeah.
They were like best friends. They really were.
They
had a really close relationship.
Yes.
And all because of just, manufactured, but the rules. And it's shut up.
Yeah,
you're
He had a real
ridiculous.
human bond with this person who couldn't be there when he died.
Yeah, and I think if he would have not been delirious, probably he would have... or
ruptured
known
organs.
She was there. Because I'm sure they didn't even tell him.
Right.
So the loneliness of her position then as his mistress that is now nobody.
She's on her own. Yeah.
Really weighed heavy on her. She wasn't greedy like the other mistresses. So her sons didn't really have the same upbringing as everybody else. They did okay. But
I mean, they were in that nice boarding school in France.
They were in that nice boarding school, but she was getting $2 million a year at the time, which now was not going to be there. Barbara was getting over $8 million. So it's just, she wasn't in the best position.
Yeah,
She was
the relative
debt.
scale of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think too, kind of you should teach accounting in school nowadays. She came from nothing. She never had anything, so she didn't know how to manage anything.
She couldn't read.
Either.
She was illiterate too.
Yeah. Yes,
Right.
exactly. I'm sure people took advantage of her all the time.
Women, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this was pre having a bank account. So it's what do you do with it? You're not investing in a Roth IRA. It's not.
Right. Where is it? She literally has a room of gold. Where's the money?
Yeah, truly. It's just coins in a bag.
She probably can't, maybe she says, hey, Buckingham, I need my allowance. And what if she only gets half of it? She doesn't know.
Right.
Yeah. I don't like this.
Well, she could probably count.
She probably could count, but you know
yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
So to kind of lift her spirits, she would try to go to the theater, but it actually ended up making her sadder because she used to go with Charles all the time. So it had little meaning now for her. And then in March 1687, she suffered a stroke that left her paralyzed on one side.
And how old would she have been in 67?
87.
She was 37.
Dang.
In 87, she was 37. Got it.
And
so
then,
this is she's my age at this point. I'm
young.
38.
She's very young. Now,
And
if
had a
that other
stroke.
date, if she was born in 1642, she would have been 45. But
Then my
still.
age. Hey,
They
she's
still
either
believe-
Ashley's age or my age.
Yeah.
Having
This is
stroke.
a young person
Young
to have
woman.
a stroke.
young,
Absolutely.
vibrant,
yes, individual.
whole life ahead of her.
Yes,
Just a child.
just as a child.
Just a babe in the wood. Yeah.
So she had a stroke in March, and then she had a second stroke in May, and that left her confined to her bed at Pall Mall House. And then she also died of apoplexy, almost certainly acquired through syphilis.
Syphilis. Okay. I was like, wait a second. Okay. Something must be going on
Which
here.
Charles also suffered from. In fact, some of the more vicious-tongued people when she passed said the last gift that Charles ever gave her.
Ew.
Yeah.
Damn.
So,
No,
you know,
they can fuck right off.
They can fuck right off. Exactly.
Ew.
Yes.
Ooh.
So, yeah, so she suffered from apoplexy as well. And on November 14th, 1687, at 10 o'clock in the evening, less than just 3 years after the king died, she passed away. She was 37.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So that's kind of Nell's story. And I have a couple little other things to say, and then we can chat about whatever. But it's important, I think, to note, and I think we really covered this, but acting wasn't in the realm of ladies. As we talked about.
Right.
And many were deemed whores, prostitutes.
Because they actually were. They were.
And they
I mean,
were,
like,
but
a legit,
legitimately
second
they were.
job.
And
Some
even if
waited
they weren't-
tables in the tavern and, you know.
But even if they weren't, they still were considered that.
Right.
You know? But those women were the first to take the stage, making history, and Nell was among them.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome. I mean, they paved the way for us. For sure. And got a lot of shit out of the way that some we still deal with. And
I was going to
others we
say,
do not
some
have
of
to
the
deal
shit is still in the way, but yeah.
with. It is. We're still working on it. But some of
Still
the things
some-
we've gotten out of there.
Definitely, I think more options for earning income. It wasn't like,
Yes.
these are literally your only choices. So that's nice. But again, like, you know, the creepy old men just like, you know, just coming out of the woodwork. They're like, aha. They're like you seem nice. You
And then at least they
teenager,
could
you.
give them something like a $2 million pension a year instead
Right.
of just being creepy.
That is true. Yes, there was
And
a little
the
bit
mayor
of
Theater Town.
Theaterton.
Theater
Theaterton. The matter of
Easter
Theaterton.
eggs.
Easter eggs for maybe our drunk dives later.
Patreon level, what?
Yeah. But yeah, so Nell became this kind of folk hero in England and a Restoration Age Cinderella, and she never forgot where she came from. 'Cause she always sent money back, you know, to her family, and there are a couple hospitals in London also that like have a plaque with her because she would give money and go visit people, and she just, you know, she took care of a people's princess, right? She with a wicked sense of humor, but she took care of people. And yeah.
So did Diana, though, apparently.
She did.
Like, you know, I just watched
Absolutely.
a docuseries on her recently, and they were talking about, I mean, very much just, again, a real person and loved a prank. And again, parallels, like, didn't forget real people and understanding, like, yes, I'm surrounded by all this, you know, manners and finery and incredible wealth. I've got the king over here, but just remembering what regular people are dealing with and maintaining also like those social connections too, and those relationships with people like in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see Nell doing like what Diana did when the AIDS epidemic was happening, and she was hugging people, and everybody was freaking out. And I can imagine that she was doing that in the hospitals as well. Maybe, you know,
just
connecting
connecting with,
and they're like, stop, don't touch them.
yeah, but just like connecting with people, and like you said, having sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and maybe sometimes that was difficult, but at the same time, I think that was probably also helpful for Charles as a ruler. Like you said, people really loved her, but she could help him maintain that connection as well, because it's like, hey, I'm your closest confidant, and I have this perspective on life, both past and present. I think that was probably really valuable for him as a ruler.
I think so too. And she just really lived her life to the beat of her own drum. She was who she was, and even a king, you know, wasn't going to change that. And I'll just end with this. This was my favorite quote, and it's from the biography Charles II's favorite mistress, pretty witty Nell Gwynn.
Better than the I'm the Protestant whore.
Right, I'm the Protestant whore. I mean, no, that's the best one. You're right.
That's the poll quote. Yeah.
That's the shirt. But I do want to say this because I just thought it was really beautiful. And it actually got me emotional earlier. So if I tear up, I apologize. But it said, the orange girl who captured the hearts of the nation would pass into memory as pretty, witty Nell, the actress who stole a king's heart and loved him unconditionally.
Aww. This is such a more positive story than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but fascinating.
You know, it's like
fascinating.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. She kind of weaved in and out of really impactful moments in history.
Yeah. Oh, and his brother James is who took over, after he passed. So
Okay.
his brother James.
Got it. So James tagged in, and the monarchy continued.
The monarchy continued. Yes, there was not another puritanical rule. We are
Catholics
safe.
didn't take him down.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
James was Catholic technically, but they're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Church of England still rules. It's fine.
Right.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well done, Jen. We've learned so much today. I feel like, I mean, I think if we stay in order, we're 3 in at this point, but I feel like this has been one of our more educational from a historic standpoint so far.
I'm a history geek, but there's so much, and I feel like you have to understand it before you can understand her. Otherwise, she's just like some bawdy actress who worked her way up to the king.
Yeah, no, context. Not a floozy. Yeah, context is key.
Maybe, but only on her own terms.
Yeah, I feel like it's different. I feel like there's a light connotation, but also maybe a little bit of a negative connotation with the word floozy.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll Merriam-Webster this, but floozy to me, there's like an element of manipulation involved to it, maybe, where it's sort of like, hey, you know what you're... Well, Jen, this was an incredible episode, and where can the listeners find us and see all these wonderful photos we've made mention of?
We have Instagram accounts.
We do.
Wicked Stage Pod, right? Yes.
That's us. Wicked Stage Pod. That's our Insta handle.
Wicked Stage Pod. And we also have a Patreon, Upon the Wicked Stage. Life Upon the Wicked Stage.
That's
what the Patreon is.
That's our full name.
Life Upon the Wicked Stage.
Our full name is the Patreon.
We're still learning our own names, clearly. This is episode 3. It's early.
We're getting really good at this in episode 100. It's okay.
There's a lot to consider with branding and with social handles and character counts, and it's very fraught, but it's, we're making it work. We're figuring it all out as we go.
Figuring it all out. And having fun doing it.
Incredible. Well, the next episode, we have a very special Halloween-inspired or Halloween-informed episode. Without giving too much away, we're going to be talking about Harry Houdini and his, I'll say, fascination on a personal and professional level with the paranormal, and spoiler alert, ties to Halloween because he died on Halloween famously.
Oh,
so we're going to be unpacking
Harry Houdini
next
is
time.
dead?
What?
He was killed by a ghost. Or was he? Tune in to see.
Tune in to find out more. Incredible. All right, friends. We did it again.
We did it
Yay!
again.
Yay! All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, you floozies.
And scene.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Wicked Stage Pod.
Follow us on Instagram and check out our Patreon for more exclusive content.
These deliciously wicked episodes drop every other Friday, so make sure you subscribe or follow and don't get left waiting in the wings.